Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, Sonic Love. So in today's video, we're going to be doing a review of the RK2023 from our good friends from China, Powkiddy. So sit back, let's see what it's like. I did do a unboxing and first impressions. I was left a little bit disappointed. I'll leave a link in the video description just so you can see it if you want to check it out. I do a lot more gameplay in that video than I will be in this. This is a review to see whether it's worth your hard-earned cash. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So this is the RK2023. The display itself is a 3.5 IPS OCA laminated display. We have a 640 by 480 resolution. It has a Mali CPU, 4-core, 1.8 gigahertz. It's rocking the RK3566, which is an open source chip this time around, which is really good because not many companies do this. So that is good. We have 2 TF card slots from 16 gig up to 256 gig. We have 2 built-in stereo speakers, which are really good in my opinion. 3000 milliamp hour battery, 8 hours of battery life, but I've been getting around 5 depending on what games that you play. I play a multitude from retro to PSP, Dreamcast, and that's a full brightness as well, so that's also very good. It has a 4:3 aspect ratio. It comes with LPDDR4 RAM, 1 gig. So they're the specs. So on this video, I'm going to break it down into sections, and then hopefully it will be good enough for you to make a decision whether you wish to purchase it with your hard-earned cash. So moving on to some build quality. Now the unit itself looks absolutely lovely. I love the design. I think it's really, really nice. There's just a few things that I don't like. One is the actual buttons. There is far too many gaps and the buttons are incredibly loose. Now this doesn't deter from them being accurate when you're playing games, far from it, but it just means that it is like a box of matches. It rattles, so it's like the worst case of rattle. It's like a rattlesnake, if anything. That really disappointed me because normally handhelds don't have that much wiggle or noise. Maybe like a trigger button or a loose button maybe, and you can just hear it rattle. But everything seems to rattle on here. As I say, the actual unit itself is lovely. I really love the form factor. I think it's great. Maybe a metal version would have been a nice asset with an extra $20 or £20 uplift in price. I would have been happy with that. So coming in, we have the OTG, 2 TF card slots, 3.5mm headphone jack. We have 2 firing speakers that face down. Surprisingly, the sound is very, very good. We have our usual analog sticks, which is left and right, situated at the bottom. Very comfortable to use, great position, all in all, in my opinion. I think it's a nice design. The D-pad is left to be desired. It is functional and it works perfectly fine in fighting games and obviously old 8-bit and 16-bit game platformers. They also work incredibly well. The issue is the design of the D-pad itself. It is very round, but it is incredibly sharp. Like the edge, it's like a razor, so after a while it does hurt your thumb. I found that like in Street Fighter games, if you normally have the rotation, so you have the flick of the thumb to pull out a move, well your thumb catches on the sharp edge, so after a while that does hurt. So I found with fighting games, the best thing to do is input it through holding it. So instead of flicking your finger, you just have to input it, and then it doesn't have any effect on your finger. You just have to alter the style of play really just to use this D-pad. The buttons themselves are fantastic. They're really, really nice. They are chunky. Apart from them rattling, they're just so loose, that's all. That doesn't mean that the performance is bad. When you press down on the button, you have a really, really nice press and it springs up really, really good. Really, really fast and instant, so the response is really, really good. It doesn't go below the unit, which is also very, very comfortable in the hand, and it just makes for really good input. We have our start select at the top, We also have triggers. I know a lot of people like stack triggers, but I don't mind the way that they've laid them out here. I think the fact that one is raised further than the other, it's a good indication of which one to press. No issues with them, apart from them rattling, that's it. Just everything just seems to be loose, and I don't like it. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the best build quality. Does it mean it's broken? No. Does it mean it doesn't work? No. But it just could have been fitted and molded a little bit better, in my opinion. The other thing is, with it being plastic, unit itself has quite a lot of flex, like you can twist it. And not only that, but in certain scenarios and games, like I can get frustrated with games, but I noticed that the corner did start to pop out. Can you see that in the bottom corner there? Now that's just over time, really, so it's something to be concerned about. So try not to be too aggressive with the unit itself. But I've been playing it now for a good few months now. I think it's 2 months I've been playing it for, non-stop, just to get a good feel of it, because I was, as I say, disappointed when I first did the unboxing. But now I've had it, take it on the go and use it as a regular device for over 2 months. I have to say, the build quality isn't too bad. It's stood the test of time. I've chucked it in my pocket, I've chucked it in bags. It's come with me everywhere. I take it on the go over the last 2 months, and surprisingly enough, it's held true. Now I think it's just I'm quite heavy-handed, so I think the result of that little tiny bit of gap that shows there, but that's with a bit of flex though. You know, I'm forcefully doing that, but sometimes I get frustrated and twist the unit itself, and that's why that's occurred. Build quality overall, I wouldn't say this is the strong suit of this unit, so I'm going to give the build quality a 5 out of 10. So in this next section, it's going to be all about the controls and how they feel, and test out a few games and tell you what it's like to play on the RK2023. So I'm going to kick things off with a platformer, one that really does test the D-pad and the buttons themselves, which is Super Mario World. I am playing through a screen though, guys, so please be patient. But no issues whatsoever. The D-pad for Super Mario is really good, and any other 8-bit and 16-bit games, you're not going to have any issues. If you are not a D-pad guy and you are an analog, then the same. It's really comfortable. Your hand position is really nice. The unit itself is light. As I die, but I am playing through a phone, which is awful. Let me move my head so I can see the screen and see if I can do any better. But the D-pad works really well. I know it has sharp edges, but it feels really nice when you're playing. Inputs are fine, very responsive. The buttons feel nice. I do like the chunkier button. I do feel that I'm not losing my lives through a result of poor D-pad or buttons. I'm losing it just through absolute poor playing ability. Directions are really good, stable. Let's test out a game that uses the triggers, but for your action platformers, you should have no issues with this unit whatsoever. Again, controls feel really nice. Triggers work well. Very responsive, very comfortable, easy to use. If you are a analog stick guy, then or girl, shall I say, then you'll have no issues with the RK2023. My only complaint is the sharpness of the D-pad and also the rattliness of the buttons, but as a response they work perfectly fine. So I give the score for the controls a 7 out of 10, only because of the D-pad and also how rattly the buttons are. Now we move on to emulation on the RK2023. Now it is rocking the RK3566. We know that it's not the most powerful chipset, but there are hundreds and thousands of games that are still playable. N64, lots of games playable. PSP, lots of games playable. Dreamcast, likewise, lots of games playable. There is some that will not work due to the limitations of the chipset, but I still think there is a considerable amount of goodness for an emulation device. So I'm going to go through as many systems as I can, showcasing a little bit of performance, just so you have a little bit of realization of just what is capable on this. So I'm going to kick things off with some classic arcade games. Always nice to have a lovely collection of arcade games you can play, and on the RK2023 they run really well. Kick things off with some WrestleFest, one of my favourite arcade games. Still never beat the Royal Rumble. Love to know in the comments, guys, if you've beat the Royal Rumble yet. The Ultimate Warrior. There was some Turbo Arrow. Looks really nice with the 4:3 aspect ratio for arcade games. Move on to some Dolphin Blue. Plays at full speed and also looks really nice on here. Sega Naomi is another one that works really well on here. N64 is another one that works really well on here. Not everything works, but there still is tons of games that works really well Game Boy Advance is another one that looks incredible on here as well. You do have borders on the top and bottom because of the 4:3 aspect ratio, but it still doesn't deter the fact that it still looks incredible on here and plays really well. There were some Guardian Heroes, absolute classic. .2DS is another system that works really well on here. If you want to play the more awkward games to play with the double screen, you can get patches. So like the Link games on here, you can have it so instead of using the screen to touch, you can use it and sign it to the analog stick, and it works well. But you have to get patches for that. But the majority of games that you don't need to use the touch input play fantastically well on here. Controls feel nice. Easy to swap out between the screens. Dreamcast is another one that's surprisingly good on here as well. Not everything will run, but the majority will. And at a good level. PSP is another surprisingly good system to run on here. The lower end systems can run up to 2x resolution. You can have it full screen if you wish. I don't mind the borders, just to have the ratio correct. This is a 2x resolution. As you can see, it's running full speed. Now, the harder to run games like Chains of Olympus, you will have to use frame skip, and it doesn't look pretty, but still, there is still hundreds of games that are still worth playing on here. The likes of your lower end systems, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, PC Engine, Sega Mega Drive, SNES, they all look stunning on here as well. So that concludes emulation, and I'm going to give emulation on the RK2023, I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. Now I'm going to move on to sound. As you could hear, it gets very loud. The speakers themselves have like a really nice low to them. It's not like a subwoofer low, but it is really top quality. I'm also going to give the sound a 9 out of 10 for the RK2023. So this concludes my review for the RK2023. So the specs are not the best, but we also knew this anyway, but it has poor build quality in my eyes. Is it functional as a device? Yes. Is it comfortable? Yes. I give it a 5 out of 10. Just simply because of the rattly buttons, and I just think that the quality could have been a little bit better. The controls are fine. The only thing is with the sharpness of the D-pad itself, but everything functions as it should. Even though they're rattly and loose, they still work perfectly fine, and in fact their buttons are really, really nice, and everything works as what it should. The controls got the 7 out of 10. Emulation is really good on this handheld. We know its limitations, so we know that not everything's going to work on the high end, but we also know the low end is going to work absolutely amazing. The screen itself is the highlight of this unit. It is one of the best. It is amazing at 10 out of 10. Sound is one of the best on a smaller unit handheld, which is 9 out of 10. And that leaves me with the overall score of... So I give it a total score of 78%. Definitely worth picking up in my eyes, especially now, because when I first got it, it was £90, nearly close to 100 with shipping. That is far too expensive for what this unit is. Now it's down to £60, I think, the cheapest I've seen it. I will leave a link in the description if you wish to pick it up. There is also a new variant, which also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I will leave links to both of those units in the description. Decide which one you want to check out. But after having 2 months of using it, I was pleasantly turned around. I do think the unit is actually quite good. I just wish that the build quality and a little bit more attention to detail of that quality before it shipped out, it would have been a perfect device. Who knows, they may bring out another one with a metal version, which is a lot more durable. Who knows? Love to know what you think in the comments, guys. Did you pick one up? What do you think? I love knowing what you guys think of these units. And as always, guys, take care.